For all my classes at Pratt and any other place I've ever worked at, I suggest that you install at least all of the current browsers that you can possibly think of. So I personally, on my machine, as you can see, I run a few web browsers. IE7, IE8, Safari, Opera, Chrome, Firefox. Now, that's on the Mac. On PC, you would get the same, and you would also need to install the development add-ons. So inside of Firefox, which is where we're at, there's an add-on section. You can do a search for color, and you need to find ColorZilla, which, as you can see on the bottom of this browser screen, brings up this little element right here once installed, and you can just do a search and it shows you the color information for the area of which you selected on, which is pretty phenomenal to me for anything that's inside of the browser. As you can see, it shows this particular color happens to be, it's a blue, and the web safe color for it, or web number, would be $F0, F7, FE, or RGB color of R is 240, G is 247, B is 254. That's kind of handy for those of you who are designers, or for developers. You need to find a color, especially if you're trying to communicate to someone else what you want the color to be, and you have an example. That would be a lot easier. Also, I would suggest you do a search for, the tool happens to be Firebug. Firebug is listed right here. Firebug, at the present time, it's 1.6.2. It puts another little element on the bottom of the browser window inside of Firefox, and it's a bug. It's listed right there at the bottom. So when you click on that, it'll gives you the ability to bring up a dialog box at the bottom of the screen, no matter what screen you're looking at, and it shows the rendered HTML that's on the page, or JavaScript, which is pretty neat. It shows exact content in there, and there's nothing more that you really need to do. You can inspect it. It shows you the CSS listed on the side there. So if I click on an element like this, it shows me the CSS that's rendered on the side, and you can edit that particular CSS to change things on the fly, which is pretty cool. Now, that was the color. Let's make it even better. Let's change it to 0, 6 zeros. Change it, which is on, this is on focus, so that's the site title on focus. So change colors. You can change the line height. You can change all the CSS elements that we're talking about. So I'll just imagine the power of that, and it's doing it temporarily. So I'll just move the element down. It's doing it temporarily and on the fly. And also, if you need to find a particular element to edit it in your CSS, you just click on the side. It shows you what line it's in, and it shows you which file it's in. So it happens to be in the file, and here's the actual rule that you would be adjusting. Right? The last one of the particular elements happens to be shown right here. It's the Web Developers Toolbar. So you do a search for Web Dev. Web Developers Toolbar. Let's make sure this is the right one. This out. And yes, it is. So Web Developers Toolbar, which is presently on 1.1.9, and that shows up once you install it. Click to install. It'll show up listed right here, as you can see. It's another tool bar in your browser window. Starts with the display disable option, and that option shows you several things you can disable, such as your cache, your Java, your JavaScript, meta tags, so on and so forth. cookies. Most powerful thing like CSS, you can disable all CSS like this. Boom, renders this entire page without CSS being rendered. Neat little handy tools. Let's turn that back on. Neat little handy tools that I like to use personally is under miscellaneous. There happens to be a ruler so you can measure things. And of course, display ruler, brings up the ruler, and you can click and select an element on the page and measure how big it is or how small it is depending on what you're thinking about. It also shows you the X and Y value of that particular element from wherever you've measured to and from. Alright, that's what those are, and the size. So this one, the box that I just drew out happens to be 316 pixels by 99 pixels, and you can adjust that to fit closer to what you were thinking by just grabbing the corners and resizing it so you know how big that element is. Most of the current browsers have a web developers toolbar or a Firebug. The Firebug is shown up, it says at the bottom, and you can use Firebug Lite on most of the other current browsers like Safari, like IE, so on and so forth. It'll help you debug your sites, especially once you're getting into the thick of things using multiple CSS files to render them, or JavaScript issues. You'll definitely need Firebug to work that out.